How you all doing, everyone? That's Shaun back with another video. Um, this video I'm doing is actually, I guess I will call it a correction video to myself. Um, I have a video in the playlist "You Cannot Lose Salvation," and it was in the video about Matthew chapter 18. um, where it talks about the unforgiving servant, and then I end up uh, talking about the parable of the 100 sheep and how one went astray, and then I talked about the parable of the lost coin, the 10 coins, one was lost, and then the prodigal son. And I did that all from the the Matthew account. And in the Matthew account, we see in chapter 18 the parable of the lost sheep. But here in Luke 15, this is where we are. Um, that's really where I should have started or should have spoke from, because that's where it all is. But in any case, in that parable, I had used that as a support text to show that you can't lose salvation, which I still definitely believe in. But I just wanted to correct myself. I felt led, and I was reading over again, and I was wrestling with the fact of whether or not the parable with the lost sheep, the coins, and the prodigal son, if that had to do with people that were saved, but they just kind of went astray, like it was a relational strain, or whether that was talking about someone who wasn't saved, but then became saved. And, sometime in the gospel books, sometimes things can be worded differently. And in the Matthew account of the parable of the lost sheep, it kind of looks sort of kind of to me like it was referring to like a relational thing more so than a salvation issue. But now looking here in Luke 15, looking at all the parables here, I've actually kind of changed my mind about it. And like I said before, I'm open to correction. And I always pray that the Lord can just, if I'm wrong or anything, He can just show me and correct me. So, with that being the case, I just want to bring this video and just show why I've kind of changed my mind concerning that these parables aren't talking about someone who's already saved and just went wayward in their walk or their relationship, but it's referring to someone who wasn't saved, but then were saved. So with the sheep, the parable of the sheep and the coin and the prodigal son, the point I had made originally in the video was that they were all of the same nature. I had said how sheep are those, that is what a believer was known as, a sheep. And then I connected that with the coins to say, well, you have all these coins, 10 coins, they're all the same nature. The prodigal son, he's of his father, even though he went wayward, he's of his father. But then here in Luke 15, it kind of drew me to kind of feel differently about how these things connect. So in Luke 15:1, it says, "Then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him." In verse 2, it says, "And the Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, This man receiveth sinners and eateth with them." So here, Christ is sitting with, a group of people, and they are publicans and sinners. And then from there, these publicans and sinners are the object in the response that Jesus is giving to these Pharisees and scribes who are murmuring, acting as if, Jesus, is too good to kind of, sit with them. And with these publicans and sinners being the object in this response, it made me think, well, if I believed originally that, the parables had to do with people that were saved but just went wayward in their walk, well, these people shouldn't be, the Bible doesn't refer to people who are saved as sinners. Now, of course, saved people can sin, no doubt about that. We can, sin in the flesh. But as far as how the Bible addresses those that are saved, it calls them righteous, it calls them justified, calls them sheep, calls them believers, calls them the redeemed. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen anyone who's saved be referred to in the Bible as sinner, even though we understand that believers can sin. So from there, that kind of led me to, from that standpoint, look at these parables. And, we know Christ, he came to, die for the sins of the world. Now, when Christ came, he said he's come for the house of the lost sheep of Israel. So, Jesus gives this first parable in Luke about these lost sheep. And he says out of 99, if one goes astray, that once that shepherd goes and finds the one and brings him back, he's basically going to have a celebration about it. Then he goes on to say how when that happens, the angels in heaven rejoice over that one that repented over the 99 just persons. So here, and this is in verse 7, so here we see a contrast where they are actually referring to people who are just. It doesn't even call them sinners, it says they're just. But then it says how over that one sinner that repented. So at that point, once that sinner repented, they became just. They were found. They repented. So at that point, they were like the 99. And since they made that transition, the angels in heaven rejoiced over it. And then you see the same dynamic here with the lost coin. How this woman lost 10 pieces of silver. She swept and she eventually found it. She had a celebration too. And the same ending, how the angels of God, rejoiced over this sinner repenting. And then with the prodigal son, originally I felt because, well, hey, that's his son. He has two sons. So, he just, kind of went wayward, but that's always been his son. But the thing that kind of led me to believe something else was this last, I want to say the last verse here, verse 24. He's referring to the wayward son. He says he's talking to the one that, obeyed him, and he was upset that the father made such a big deal about his son coming back. And you see this repetitive reaction of celebration when someone who is unsaved becomes saved. In verse 24 it says, "For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they began to be merry." So someone who's saved isn't lost. And someone who's alive, they aren't dead. They can't die. Now, someone watching this, someone might say, well, see, you can lose salvation. But, we understand that, Hebrews 10, it says how Christ perfected us forever. So we understand we can't lose salvation. But here we see this father telling, what we would probably say the good son, how they're throwing a celebration because, the son that was lost is now found. So in the same way, if someone is unsaved and they become saved, they become a child of God. They are now in that fold of the pasture of the sheep, the flock of the sheep. So, you know, like I said, originally I felt like this was about people who were saved already and just kind of strain a relationship. But, you know, because of what I read in verses 1 and 2 of Luke 15 in this chapter, the object of these parables were sinners. And, you know, again, we never, as far as what I've seen in scripture, we've never seen sinners referred to, or believers referred to as, you know, sinners, like as far as how they're addressed or referenced. So I just wanted to make this video, and like I said, you know, I am open for correction. I can be in error, and I just felt led to say, okay, if I put something out, and if I felt like, well, maybe I put the wrong thing out, let me put this one out. And I'm going to still leave my other video up just to show you all that I'm not trying to hide anything, and just to show people that, you know, hey, I can be wrong too, and I can admit to that. And it's a blessing to be corrected, because, you know, we want to be for truth, and we don't want to be right just for the sake of being right. So yeah, so I just wanted to make this video just real fast and just kind of put that out there. So all right, until next time, I love you all. God bless.